Welcome to the Commissioner's Fantasy Football Podcast here with your host, Eric, the Commissioner. Again, trying to give you better guys' advice for a better fantasy football season, to have fun and maybe win some championships. But as you know, nobody really wins, right? So 1 out of 12, 1 out of 10, that's fantasy for you. And I have here with me one of my league mates, but also my brother. So we're doing a little test here to see how this goes.
Hello, hello.
Week
Hello,
one.
internet world.
Say hi. And
Hi. Rough week, man.
Fun week. There's fantasy
No.
football in the
No, this was. I couldn't have thought of a worse start for my league. Although I guess everyone could have gotten injured today. That would have been worse.
But there was a lot of injuries too. Did you have any on your teams?
No. Although that Kittle scare when they took him off the field, I was like,
yeah, I was playing against Kittle, but yeah, he's
and it
fine.
does look like a Skittle though.
So some of the main injuries, Marlon Mack might be out for the season. So that was a big injury because people who have Jonathan Taylor, there are a lot of people playing Marlon Mack ahead of Jonathan Taylor. So nobody did well except Naeem Hines. But he looks like he might be out for the year. Yeah, that was a big injury. So
yeah. So for those of you who know, I'm not that great at fantasy football. Well, I've done well in the past, but as far as stats go, I'm an amateur at best. So,
all right. And,
I don't know who 80% of the players are. If they're not on my team, yeah.
Who cares?
They're not like superstars. Well, yeah. Like, why am I supposed to pay attention to people that I guess maybe for future references? But
exactly, because fantasy football is not just it's a yearly thing. So you want to plan for the future.
Okay.
The more you know, the better you're.
So what I wanted to talk about is that whole intro thing that happened, I think, Thursday's game. So I guess the audience was booing. They were booing the players.
No, because you can't get a read on it. And I talked about it to a few other guys. I mean, you cannot just – there was about 70,000 people out there as fans. Mm-hmm. It was a little weird, so I was trying to put myself in their shoes, right? If I go to a game, I get a ticket. I'm a KC fan. The Chiefs' first game, they won the Super Bowl. I'm going to the game. I get my tickets. I'm sitting in my stands. They're doing the national anthem. Houston Texans are not even on the field for the national anthem. So I'm a little confused of what's going on. I didn't get a memo about the.
So only KC was on the field for the national anthem. For both, because they did that the Black national anthem or whatever it's called.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that. So they did. So Texans were in the locker room during the national anthem. They come out for the unity thing, which a lot of teams did. Mm-hmm. They come out for that. So some people said the crowd was booing because they were booing the Texans just because they're the Texans. And also maybe because they didn't come out for the national anthem. So it's a two-parter. And somebody else I heard said that during the time when they were holding hands, somebody yelled in the crowd, in which you can't hear everything, Trump 2020, and people started booing that. So there could be a lot of reasons why people booed. Unless you're talking to somebody that was there, it doesn't matter. Honestly, it just doesn't matter.
Can we talk about the reason why I booed?
I do not care because it has nothing to do with fantasy.
Has everything to do with fantasy. I don't know. I found what the announcers were saying was pretty cringeworthy.
I don't care.
I do care.
I don't.
Well, that makes this very much less interesting. Thank you for adding to the value of this conversation.
It doesn't matter because we're here. I'm here to help people in their fantasy leagues to watch football for fantasy purposes. You can mute everything else. You can mute the announcers. You can do all that because I've done it today. I watched 2 games muted because I was watching the Red Zone. The Red Zone when they announced the Red Zone announcers, just announce people in the Red Zone. So there's ways to get away. If you're politically on one side or the other, you don't have to put up with listening to announcers announce the game. It just doesn't matter. You can mute it.
Well, what if they just get politics out of it and just let us watch some football? You know? What if that's
the thing. That's what I'm saying. You could just mute them. You have the choice of muting somebody and still watching the game and I and still enjoying your fantasy players play during those games.
I just found it interesting that they didn't talk as much about how, like, we're finally back. Maybe, there's a chance the season wasn't even happening, and here we are, and we're so grateful that you guys are joining us via. It was none of that, and all of like, oh, we're
Don't care.
united with our, and here's what corporate told us to say in case we get sued or something.
Don't
It
care.
feels fake. I care.
I, I don't care because fantasy football isn't
Hey,
fake.
hey, Eric, I heard you don't care.
I do not care at
Uh,
all. Bottom line,
okay.
I don't care. I do care about my fantasy players
Okay.
and what's going on.
So
So
let's talk
let's
fantasy
get
then.
well. Let me
Let's
get
get
some
into it.
injuries out there. So if you had Blake Jarwin starting like I did in like 4 leagues, tight end for the Cowboys, caught one pass and then injured while going down. So he might have. I'm looking at a report. He might have torn his ACL by himself falling down, which sucks because he's so talented. So that happened. Parker, I don't know if you have Parker out there, he got injured. I don't think it's a serious injury, but it's a hamstring injury. So a lot of these guys going out there, they haven't played preseason, they haven't played
You're talking
like
about
full on
Miami, right?
game.
Parker from
Yeah,
Miami, or
Devonta Parker. Yeah.
so I think
And
I
then
have in one of our leagues. So me and Eric are in 2 leagues together. There's a dynasty league and a regular season league, and only dynasty is half point PPR or both.
our dynasty and our the mediocre people that I commission both leagues. They're not half point PPR. I don't know why you don't know this yet. It's tier PPR, which I've been
When we
preaching
hold
is
on,
the
when we
future.
started this, what did I say? I was an amateur at
That's
best.
fine. And I'm
Okay.
gonna get at you because you're in these leagues. One thing that I always preach, know your rules, know your scoring rules before you go into drafts. Before you draft players, know what kind of scoring it is. So in our league, it's tier PPR, which means smaller catches get smaller points for catches. If you get a longer catch, you get more points for those catches. So I went over those. If you
Right.
guys look back at my podcast, I specifically went over the tier PPR. It is the future. I believe it's gonna, you know, come in sometime. But right now, people are still against it. But in our leagues, I commission 3 leagues, and they're all tier PPR, and that's on the Sleeper app.
So what's the difference between tier PPR and half point PPR full point?
Go and look at one of my podcasts because I
No, not
discussed that
looking at what I'm
specifically.
podcast. We're talking right now. You want me to
So
pause this whole thing?
no, so full tier PPR. The difference is like I mentioned before, like let's say James White, right? When he was with Brady, he would catch like 10 passes. They're all short passes, 5 yards, 10 yards. He gets a point for each of them. So each catch equals 1 point. And then when, let's say N'Keal Harry, he wasn't, well, he was there last year, but let's say he catches a pass for 40 yards, he also gets a point. So my whole thing was with tier PPR, not all catches are equal. So when we do tier PPR, shorter passes, for example, as I can recall right now, 0 yards to 4 or 5 yards, it's 0.25.
Got it. So
So you get
the better the catch, the more points
the
per
longer
catch
the
you get.
catch.
Got it.
So we go up to
Okay.
1 point, and you could in the
So
sleeper app you can adjust it.
back to talking about wide receivers for Miami. So I have Preston Williams, the rookie. I believe he's a rookie. Um, so do you think Parker's injury is going to help me out when they play a suckier team? Or
Well, again, he's not ruled out, so it's a hamstring injury. Again, so many guys got like Galladay was out today because of a hamstring injury. So
I thought he was just on holiday.
yeah. So one cool thing to take away from Preston Williams is he got 7 targets from
Thank you for
Fitzpatrick.
ignoring my
I got your
my
joke,
way.
but I was going into
Okay.
my Preston Williams actually got 7 targets, and that's more of the targets came when Devonta Parker left. So, but
Okay.
he's the second target is he gets the second most targets at least right now from Fitzpatrick. So on the Miami, the next person down was Mike Gesicki, which is the tight end. He got 5 targets. Um,
All right. It's too many targets to memorize. Whatever. I have a beef to pick with you. this morning. So we're recording this after the Sunday night's game. This morning, I called you and I said, "Hey, should I start Peterson, Adrian Peterson? Should I start him,
Or who?
or I think I said Carlos Hyde,
Exactly.
or in my other league versus Deshaun Jackson,
And what did I say? Start
Carlos
Carlos
Hyde."
Hyde.
And how did that work out for me?
He got a touchdown.
Yeah,
That
Adrian Peterson still got more points.
he got more points, but you just don't know.
They're
You
both.
going into a backfield, okay? Going into a backfield that you don't know what's going to happen. Literally, you got a
Whoa,
new
whoa, whoa, whoa,
player
whoa,
that
whoa,
came in a
whoa,
week
whoa.
ago.
You're the commissioner, okay?
Exactly.
I thought because
I'm
you
not.
have
I'm
this, you
not.
can tell the future.
No, no. I cannot
Uh,
tell the future. I can only tell what I know at the time that I know. I cannot predict the
that's
future.
so messed up, man.
I
You,
wish I could. I wish I
yeah.
could.
In our regular league, none of my running backs got over 10 points. It hurt.
Well, some of them have tough matchups. I have Mixon. I have Mixon about 4 leagues. I'm a Mixon guy. I love Joe Mixon. He looked good
I'm
again, but
regretting not trading Mixon and Evans for who was it, Elliott?
Ezekiel. Okay, yeah, that's not a good trade. I told you not to trade. Look, if you want to trade Mixon, I'll make a trade with you right now for the league for Mixon. I want Mixon. I'll trade. So
So what was up with Mixon today? Just the defense, or
no, again, Chargers have a good run defense. Number one, they have Bosa. Um, look, they got at the quarterback. New quarterback, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow. He looked good. So Burrow looked good. Mixon
he
looked
did?
good. Like me, we're watching the game. Mixon looks good. It's just again the offense was not in sync because it's their first game with the new quarterback. AJ Green looked good and he's back. So there's a lot of hope. So as a Joe, if you guys are Joe Mixon owners, don't give up hope. Don't trade him away. He's a talented back. He will be back. Like there's nothing else I can say.
I'll be back.
He's a first rounder.
Mixing, and they're gonna get back and go and gonna win ball and they're gonna give you all the fantasy points you want.
Hey, he's
Wouldn't that be weird if he had that accent though?
yeah. And then again, the game script didn't go their way, so it was a tough game to watch. But
so let's talk about the anticipated New Orleans and Buccaneers game.
yeah,
So
it
you got
started
Saints
off well.
Buccaneers, right? You're
Well.
looking at the Bucks and you're going like, wow, they're going to be strong. And then what happened?
Well, again, Saints have a good defense. They have a good run defense. On top of that, they have some Lattimore's great. They have some great corners. So their defense is solid. And again, a new team. You got Tom Brady. You got Mike Evans, who was a game time decision. He's in. So there's a lot of just.
He made one catch for that touchdown finally.
Look, I told you, if you started Mike Evans, you wouldn't be disappointed. It wasn't a great game.
6 points?
Hey, you got something. Points. Talk about people that didn't get nothing. Who got better, Devontae Parker or
what did Parker get?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll give you exactly. Parker got 4 catches for 47 yards. 4 points. There you go. So who's better?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about, receptions, I guess Parker, right? Because at least he got 4 touches, where Evans got 1 touch for a touchdown.
Yeah, well, Parker wasn't facing a Lattimore.
Yeah, no, it was an insane week for a lot of disappointment. How much of this do you think involves with not having preseason games?
Some of it was like that, but again, look at Michael Thomas. Mm-hmm. Literally, Michael Thomas had the worst game of probably his career.
As opposed to metaphorically.
What do you mean?
Well, you said he literally had the worst game of his career.
Well, I can't remember.
As opposed to a metaphoric game he had.
Yeah, Michael Thomas had 3 catches for 17 yards. First round pick, okay? He was the first wide receiver off the board in all leagues. 3 catches. I'm going to make sure I got this right. 3 catches for 17 yards. And then he got injured at the end because Latavius Murray rolled over his ankle. So just monitor that if you're a Michael Thomas owner, monitor his injury out. But that was towards the end of the game. It wasn't like at the beginning of the game he didn't play. That was at the end of the game. So I think there was a lot of people who just took a dump, and that happens all the time.
It seemed like it was either your player did really, 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 really well, or they just stunk. I
No,
didn't see who did decently.
I mean, there's a lot of decent outcomes. I mean, Alvin Kamara, he had the touchdowns help out. So he had the
Yeah.
touchdowns that help out. That's great. But again, he could have gone, he could have been better. But again, Tampa Bay has an underrated defense.
Well, they also took back a few of his touchdowns, right?
No, I don't think they did for Alvin Kamara. No.
They did. I saw him. There was a flag
Oh
on the
yeah,
play.
the
Yeah,
last one.
yeah,
He
yeah.
could have had three,
Correct.
but he just missed three. So he could have had a much
What
bigger
what
game.
were his point totals roughly? Like over 20?
Kamara, well, so for his rushing, he had 12 carries, which Latavius Murray had 15 carries. And that's usually the case. Kamara catches more passes.
Correct.
Latavius Murray had 12 carries for 16 yards, which isn't good. But that's usually Kamara. You don't have to worry about that. But he did have 5 catches for 51 yards. So he's going to do that. Alvin Kamara, he's better in PPR leagues than standard leagues.
Correct. Okay.
So,
So what?
so I mean, I'm thinking of other players that I could come off the top of my head, like even CEH. That's a normal game when you have 138 yards for a good running back for a good team.
So if someone, for example, has a rookie running back on their team, but they're not starting, let's say they're RB2s, right? A great example is the Chargers. So you have Eckler, and then I think the second guy is the rookie Kelly, right? Joshua Kelly.
Well, it's supposed to be Justin on the depth chart. It's supposed to be Justin Jackson and then Kelly.
It looks like
I'm looking for that.
no, it looks like on the depth chart for we use the sleeper app. So for those of you who use it, I'm looking at the depth chart right now, and it looks like it's Eckler, Kelly, then Jackson.
And the game flow, that's exactly what it showed because Austin Eckler, it was weird because Austin Eckler is used to getting more passes, but it's not Phillip Rivers anymore. So I knew that was going to happen. But he did get 19 carries, which is good for Eckler owners. Hopefully he gets more catches because it's not going to be worth it. He got 19 carries for 84 yards. Kelly looked better. He got 12 carries for 60 yards. So average per carry, Kelly was better at 5 and
Well, he did get more fantasy points, right?
yeah, because he had 2 touchdowns. I think he had no, he had 1 touchdown and then Eckler had no touchdowns. So he had a touchdown which made it up, and Kelly looked better on the stat sheet. But Austin Eckler is still the guy. It looks like he's one thing that I was trying to figure out in this game is Austin Eckler. Is he going to just get the passes and the few carries, and then Joshua Kelly's going to get majority of the carries? Eckler's getting majority of the carries, which is not good news for Joshua Kelly.
It's also his first game in the NFL.
Yes, but if Eckler is there and he's getting this many carries, just lower your expectations because I have more expectation for Joshua Kelly.
Okay. See, I had no expectation for Joshua Kelly.
I had a lot of expectations for him.
Okay. So, going into week 2, week 3, if you have a Joshua Kelly kind of scenario, what do you do? Do you start them? Do you keep them on the bench to kind of get an idea what teams are doing? Or since there's no preseason for us to base anything off of?
Yeah, for Joshua Kelly, wait and watch because he looked good. So what I'm thinking, if I'm the Chargers, if I see a running back that looks good, hey, I want to see if they're going to use him more. And I feel like they're going to try to go back. They won this game, barely won it. They should have lost the game. Chargers stunk. But
the way they won was pretty ridiculous.
yeah, they could have lost easily. AJ Green touchdown was called back because Adrian Green pushed off. They could have lost that game.
I don't know if he actually pushed off. It looks like the guy just sold it.
He pushed off. You gotta call that play, and I agree with the call. The other call with the Cowboys game, I didn't agree, but this one I did agree. That was a good call, even though I had AJ Green.
The AJ Green catch, right? He pushed off, not more than usual, I would say.
But
I think
so you can't do it.
That what those calls get called maybe 15% of the time, 20%. I mean, the beautiful catch he had with his feet there, it was just
He's AJ Green and looks like he
Yeah.
still hasn't lost it. So
Who
I
is
was
who
so
is
happy
who's
to watch him.
who's defending him?
I don't know the corners.
But he
No,
deserved an Oscar. That was I could tell there
well,
was no pressure there. He fell back. He felt him touch him, and then he just pushed back, and it was a
you
beautiful
want
performance.
you want separation. Chargers do not have some of the corners back, so I think the corner's not good. Burrow could have done more, but
Also, they could have made the field goal at the end. Like, what do you think happened to his foot? Do you think that was a? Do you think that was like a he actually injured his foot, or do you think he went, "Oh no, I missed an easy field goal. Let me pretend I'm hurt."
I don't know. I everything kind of happens. So I'm not going to assume, but it sucks to lose that way. Chargers got lucky, which Chargers have been unlucky for many years. So it's good for them to get a win like that. I'm happy for Charger fans, the
It was
five
almost
Charger fans out there.
yeah, it was almost as if the Bengals became the Chargers today.
Yeah, but the Bengals could have won. I just watching that game. They look good. I think the Bengals are heading in the right direction. So Joe Mixon owners, don't panic. If you panic, trade him to me, please. I'll take him any day.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. So how much value does based off the beginning of this season versus others, how much value does preseason actually have, especially for rookies?
For rookies, a lot. Again, so going back to the Chargers, they're playing KC next week. KC's defense is pretty good, but it's interesting. Just again, it's really interesting for me to watch. Again, watch Joshua Kelly. If you haven't picked him up, he's a good waiver pickup. If you picked him up, like I've mentioned before, like every league should have picked him up and benched him.
I have him. I
Exactly.
have him.
That's the
So
right thing to do. So now it's just a waiting game and watch because if anything happens to Eckler, dude, he's gonna go off. So he's the next guy up for sure, based at least on one game. But he's definitely a wait and see. And I feel like Eckler, if he starts catching more passes and they give more carries to Joshua Kelly, that might be really good. So
okay.
he looked good.
Any
Joshua
other
Kelly.
takeaways from week one? I know we're not done. Technically, we have Monday,
No,
but who cares?
I mean, biggest takeaway for me as a Packers fan, as everybody knows already, I'm a Packers fan. I mentioned this before, and I felt like Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to prove something. Everybody's been, look, they got a quarterback in the first round. All of that talking gets in Rodgers' head, and he's always been the guy who has to prove himself. I had a feeling I couldn't start him in my dynasty league. That's the only place I have him because
Why
I was
why
Prescott
couldn't you start him?
because I have Prescott. Well, it's a two quarterback league. I have
Mhm.
Prescott and I had Russell Wilson.
Who also went off today?
Russell Wilson pretty much had the second highest scoring game after Rodgers. The two guys on my team, but whatever. I don't care about that. For me, I had a feeling that he's going to do that. And definitely he came out, and especially against the Vikings. People kept talking against the Vikings. He keeps failing. He doesn't have good games against the Vikings. He came out through 364 yards, 4 touchdowns. Devonta
Seems,
Adams.
seems like a good game against the Vikings.
Yeah, but on top of that, I already mentioned before, Vikings defense lost a lot of players. They're not the same. Their corners, no more as they used to be. The Vikings of the defensive Vikings, they're completely different. Packers defense is not too bad, but
Well,
that's a big takeaway
they
for me.
held Cook back for a bit.
I mean,
Too.
50 yards. Again, they were trailing, so you have to understand Vikings are trailing during the game. 50 yards for Cook is not bad. He's the goal line back. If you're a Dalvin Cook owner, stick with him because he's super talented. He had a good game, but that's like a mediocre game, like that right there. Having a good player like Dalvin Cook on a team where you're behind and yet you still get 2 touchdowns and 50 yards in the game you completely were behind. It's just, again, as long as he's not injured, he's going to be solid. He's the number one priority on the team and then Thielen. So,
Thielen had a crazy game.
yeah, a lot of that was trying to catch up. Again, him and
Yeah.
Cousins have a connection, and Thielen is, again, healthy. If he stays healthy, he's going to have his typical season. So, again, Thielen was a must start.
Guess fantasy owners for Thielen are feeling pretty excited especially
Yeah.
after today's performance.
And those who took Devonta Adams, which a lot of people were saying, and I remember listening to experts and listening to people talk. Michael Thomas was number one, and then Devonta Adams was the number two. But you want maybe Julio Jones or Tyreek Hill is better.
Mm-hmm.
But as watching this game, when you have, I'm gonna go back and give you the exact targets for Devonta Adams:
That was
17
ridiculous.
targets,
Yeah,
14 catches.
that was ridiculous.
He's like 50% of Aaron Rodgers. He goes to him. And that you've seen when he was healthy last year, it was the same thing. So nothing has changed there. He's the primary guy. He's a solid start. He might end up being the number one wide receiver at the end of the year as long as he stays healthy.
What about the third and fourth wide receivers for the Packers?
So
You
that
think it was
was the
just
big,
today's game?
yeah, that's something to watch because everybody was talking up MVS. And that happens. And Rodgers, a guy who loves wide receivers he connects with. So like last year, he found Lazard. He connected with him last year. So a lot of people were saying during the training camp that MVS is coming back up. And MVS got second highest target, which is 6. It's not 17, but it's 6. But he did miss a few catches, which Aaron Rodgers I thought would go away from him, but he didn't. So he ended up with 96 yards on 4 catches and a touchdown. So
Well, he had that big like 60-yard
he's a big
touchdown
play guy.
pass.
Yeah, he's a big play guy, but don't count out Alan Lazard. Aaron
So,
Rodgers still likes him.
so if you have Lazard, should you start him or should you just kind of keep watching?
Keep watching. These guys are not worth starting unless you're really in the pinch. Just again, Packers are still a running team, so this game might look like, and it happened last year, right? You have a game where Aaron Rodgers can throw 4 or 5 touchdowns, and then next game he'll throw one. Aaron Jones will run in for 3 touchdowns, and Jamal Williams will run in for one. So they are first run option. They want to run the ball. That's their philosophy. So be careful and thinking I'll start Aaron Rodgers next week and be okay. They're playing the Lions, so I'm okay starting him, but just don't have high expectations after this game.
Speaking of the Lions, Adrian Peterson. Many people thought he wouldn't do anything. Obviously, got more fantasy points. How many? What were his stats? I don't have them in front of me.
He got 96 yards on the ground, and I'll pull it up.
21 receiving yards.
His receptions. He's not a guy that's going to catch passes. They're going to use Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Swift could have won the game for them. I don't know if you saw the last catch. He could have won the game for the Lions. Matthew Stafford threw right into his hands. He took his hands off. He took his eyes off the ball, thinking he had it. So Swift, he got another touchdown. So he's going to be the pass catcher. Kerryon Johnson, I think, is done. With Adrian Peterson there, Kerryon is out the door. He stinks.
So is he worth starting from now on, or do we give him another week or two? No, Peterson.
No, Peterson is worth starting. It looks like he's the guy that's there, that's carrying the torch, at least for the running game. So they're going to they got him for 1 year. So I feel like I'm looking for the game, but look at Lions. 14 carries. He had the highest carries. Nobody came in close. 14 carries, 93 yards. That's good. Adrian Peterson's still good. So Lions need a good running back, and I think Adrian Peterson and Swift might end up the kind of like,
Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb?
Kind of a little bit, but first and second downs, Adrian Peterson, and then they'll bring Swift on the third down, and like teams do.
So might be worth starting if you have someone like a Carlos Hyde.
Yeah. Adrian Peterson is a start, especially against Green Bay. Again, Green Bay has a decent defense. Clark got injured, their defensive end. So I don't know how monitor him, but they have a decent defense, but people can still run on the Packers. So starting Adrian Peterson is a good start next week against the.
And what do you tell those people that went off this week and they're getting on their high, feeling like they're invincible?
Well,
specifically Jeff. We're talking about Jeff.
It's one of our league mates. But again, it's what players went off, right? You have to look at the players that went off. So I don't know exactly the players on this team that went off, but I think he had Calvin Ridley. Look, Calvin Ridley coming into the season, everybody knew this was going to happen. Him and Julio Jones literally get majority of the targets on that team. So, and I'll go back and give you exactly. So Jones
he has Cook, Eckler, Adams, Well, he had Adam. Adams went off today.
Devonta Adams again.
Ridley, yeah.
So when you have,
Andrews.
yeah. So like I played against a guy who had Thielen. He had
And he had
Devonta
Mostert.
Adams.
So Mostert had that crazy game.
So going back to the Falcons, everybody was expecting this to Calvin Ridley to step up because again, Calvin Ridley's another talented guy. He's the younger guy. Julio Jones and Ridley both got 12 targets, both got 9 receptions. The only difference was Julio Jones doesn't get touchdowns. I don't know why. And then Ridley got 2 touchdowns on 130 yards. So he did get majority of points, but Julio Jones is Julio Jones. 157 yards, you're happy. I'm happy. I have Julio Jones, I'm happy with him.
Yeah, Marquise Brown got over like 120 yards today.
Yeah, he was playing against a cornerback that everybody was scared of, Gage on the Browns, but he still did well. Looks like he's being targeted. Going back to the Ravens, let me see if I can give you the exact.
Yeah, he's got 101 yards. Bad when you're playing up against a good corner, good defense,
good corner, everybody,
and you're Lamar Jackson who likes to run it in himself most of the time is still throwing to you. So
yeah, him and Andrews get the most targets, which in this game both of them 6 targets. Marquise Brown have 5 catches for 101 yards. That's very good for him. He's a must start every week now. I think it's going to be him and Andrews. It's got the Andrews and him show. So I honestly also with Lamar, I think he's going to run a little less and use maybe the running backs a little less. It looks like he wants to prove that he's a good passer. That's the thing.
They also have the rookie running back. He did pretty well today. What's his name?
He just caught 2 touchdowns. I think I'll tell you exactly if he caught them. Sorry. He rushed in for 2 touchdowns. Yeah. He literally had he had 7 carries for 22 yards, which is not good. But he got the touchdown.
Scoring 2 touchdown games in your first NFL games.
Yeah, but next week, Mark Ingram could come in and score 2 touchdowns. So you can't depend on that. So you need a base. So J.K. Dobbins, somebody was already trying to trade him. Like, no, I don't think so. You have to look at the underlining thing that's under there. 7 carries compared to 10 carries. I mean, they're spreading it amongst, at least for me, I was watching to see if J.K. Dobbins, he was listed 4th on the depth chart, but he's not. Him and Ingram are going to be what Gus Edwards was last year with Ingram. And Gus Edwards has some carries, but he's not all fully there. But it is J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram going forward. That's what it looks like. Okay. Look, the players that didn't go off. We talked about Mixon.
Or Evans, for example.
Evans. Drake got lucky. Drake got a touchdown. Drake didn't, but because he was playing good defense. One thing I want to say, and this is something that people were asking questions, even for me. Kyler Murray, do I start him against the 49er defense? Like, start Kyler Murray. He has got the rushing base. He's going to rush the ball. He had an amazing game against a good defense, and the Cardinals beat the 49ers. So,
which was interesting turn of events, I guess.
Yes. Speaking about the Cardinals, I was a little bit on the fence about Hopkins. Looks like Hopkins is getting the majority of the targets. He almost, if he had a touchdown, he would be on the level of, Devonta Adams.
Now, out of all the current NFL players, is there anyone more funny to watch than Murray? I mean, kind of see him run and scatters is kind of hilarious, right? It's like you're watching a little person show. It's like he doesn't belong there, but somehow he's there.
Also, any other rookies? I'm trying to think of any other rookies. So Mac, because of the injury, Taylor is going to be the next guy up. So Jonathan Taylor is going to take over.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Jonathan Taylor for the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. So you have to pick up Nyheim Hines. If you're in a PPR league, make sure he's on the roster because he's the pass catcher there. And then Jonathan Taylor is going to be the bell cow, I think. That's what it looks like. Matt going down, a lot of people wanted that. It sucks. Nobody wants to get anybody injured. But a lot of people are waiting for Jonathan Taylor to get the work. And he will get the work. So.
All right. Well, let's sign off then.
All right.
I think that's a good note to leave it on.
All right. Until next time, take care, guys.
And my name is Matt Vitaly, and that's Eric Radams.